My brother, what is going on with you, King?
It was what's happening, family, man. I know it's been a while.
Man, no. We all good, man. The sister line is Crown. She had hit me up yesterday too. She was busy. She had stuff that she had to do. We'll get that. We'll get that Black Christianity part two. But right now, I'm gonna get right into it, man. What do you think about the racial hate? Like, I feel like us, like, okay, just in the, I'm gonna just explain to you. I feel like everybody is trying to attach and be in alignment with all of Black Americans' attributes and what we've done and contributed to this country. But when the police come, they don't want to be us. When it's time for redlining, they don't want to be us. When it's time for us to look the dominant society in the eyes, they don't want to be us. When it's time to fill out the census, they don't want to be us. But they want to take on all the attributes and characteristics and all the things that we've done to contribute to this country. So my first question is, why do you think, for instance, we'll use the Latino community. Fat Joe said hip hop should be divided, and 50% of it should go to the Latino community. Let's start there. What do you think about what Fat Joe said?
All right, so simply with Fat Joe, so I heard a little bit of what he said. I know Fat Joe, like when I was in the Bronx, I lived in the Bronx. Fat Joe had been saying this for the longest. It's just now getting out. He's, what I'm saying, he's being more bold with this, but he's been saying this since the days of Terror Squad was really running live and when Big Pun was alive. He's been saying this ever since, like for a while. The simple thing is that when cats like that come at what we have created, we just got to simply hit them with history. I think you said it. You said it a bunch of times, at least in like your last 5 podcasts. You said that listen, they don't have any records of anything that they say. They just say things from out of their hearts, and what you say from your heart, that could be cool. It could be accepted. I mean, it could be cool, but it can't be accepted if you don't have any facts. When you start making statements, you got to back up your statement with some facts or a fact. With Fat Joe saying that the Latino community take a share in hip hop, we got to ask the question, what facts do you have to back up that statement? He throws out just a couple of names, but the names that he's throwing out, those are like guys who are in the 80s, 90s. When we have on record, I made a podcast on it. We have the Jubilaries who was rhyming. They had a beat. They had a cipher. This was in the 1930s and in the 1940s. The Jubilaries is not even from New York. You know what I'm saying? So then you go to Chicago, you had different type of dances. Once the Great Migration was happening and blacks began to start at least trying to build up a culture, we had different dances and the scats and all of that going on. We already had the culture, and there was not one Latino around in the 1930s who was involved in the Harlem Renaissance movement and involved in our movements then, in our creations and innovations then. That's a matter of fact though. This is not my opinion. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is that if you're gonna have if you're gonna come out and make these statements, present some facts. I can make the statement and say, yo, black hip hop originated from black folks. But the fact that I have to back that up is take a look at the Jubilaries, listen to their records, listen to their songs, and then look at the timeline, attach the timeline. These other groups don't attach timelines. They just want to attach their ties to us when it comes time for culture, because that's what they're used to, Warren G. They want to be around us long enough to take a little bit of our culture and try to innovate it, or they want to try to attach their motives to our culture. And so when they move forward, they're moving forward with a coalition, with a coalition of of their own ambitions and their own determination mixed with our culture. And you see this with the Latino. They will. I've seen it time and time again in New York. It's a lot of Puerto Ricans. I'm talking about Spaniard Puerto Ricans that live in New York. Um, because you have a lot of black Latinos, black dudes, black women. You can tell they're black, and they'll tell you, "Hey, I'm black." You know what I'm saying? And a lot of them don't have no problem with it. But for the most part, the majority of them, they would tell you, "I'm not black. I'm Puerto Rican." Even they can be as dark as they're darker than me, telling me that they're not black. They have no African lineage or black lineage or anything. They're straight Puerto Rican. That's what they identify themselves with. And it's crazy because when we say, okay, you can be part of our culture, when we start breakdancing, when we start emceeing in the streets, when we have battle raps in the hood, and we have ciphers in the hood and block parties, that can be a part of what we do. That could be a part of that hip hop party, that hip hop celebration. But then when they have their Puerto Rican Day parades, and we say, okay, man, you know what? We don't know about the Spanish speaking part, but we want to be along with y'all. We want to help represent that, right? And they look at us crazy. Like, yo, you don't belong here. They start speaking their Spanish, and their Spanish is always spoken against us. You know what I'm saying? It's always derogatory marks. They know that a lot of us blacks, we ain't really looking to try to speak Spanish. That's the oppressor language. We ain't trying to learn two oppressor languages. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't knock anybody who do. If you do, that's fantastic for you if you're doing it for a specific purpose to cater to your folks. But for if you're just doing it for the most part to do what these people do, which is, okay, we're going to use this for our benefits against you. So they do this on a daily basis. They do this, I mean, not on a daily basis, on a yearly basis when they have their Puerto Rican Day parades and all of that. You know what I'm saying? And then we have our Jamaican Day parades and African Day parades, whatever. Um, they don't come to be a part of it. And I got more on the African and Jamaican stuff, but I know you asked a question specifically about the Latinos, and I'll stick to that. But they that's what they like to do on the essence, man. They want to attach themselves to our culture, and they want to try to innovate, and then later on, come back 50 years later and say, yeah, we help be a part of that. You know, they take a couple of pictures, and they save it. They hand them down from generation to generation and decades and stuff, and they say, yo, we was a part of that when they really wasn't. There was no Latinos around when the Jubilees was out here rhyming in the White House and all of that. I'm from the same projects where this dude named DJ uh um King Mario is from. There's a dude named DJ King Mario. He was around before Grandmaster Flash, all of them, and Juice Crew and all that. He was around having block parties and all that in Bronxdale projects. He was mixing records and all of that. He was doing this stuff before that. I remember he was going at it. I remember hearing about it, that he was going at it with another dude from Queens named DJ Hollywood. So it was always a battle of, yo, who's best out of the Bronx and Queens. So that whole Bronx and Queens situation, the beef with KRS-One and MC Shan, all that stuff go back even further than before Shan and KRS-One. It goes back to Hollywood and King Mario. You go to the Bronx, where I'm from, we're gonna say, yo, King Mario's the originator, was one of the originators or the pioneers, one of the first five. If you go to Queens, they're going to tell you that DJ Hollywood was. Because DJ Hollywood rhymed and he mixed. King Mario, he played the disco and he mixed. You know what I'm saying? So this is something that, like, these Latinos wasn't around for this. When they was around, they was just around watching. They weren't around really, to be honest, they weren't around all involved. They was on the sideline learning how to break dance, learning their moves and all that from us. We was teaching them. Word is born. Word is born. Word is born. Warren G. That's what if you look up, you may know it, but maybe other folks that's probably listening probably don't know. But if you think, if don't take my word for it, right? Like I said from the beginning, let's. What I'm saying is, I'm making a statement that one of the pioneers of hip hop, as far as from the '70s, was black. Two of them, I'm saying they were black from here. And I'm saying, if you don't take my word for it, go and research it and look up Disco King Mario, Disco Jockey or DJ King Mario, and look up DJ Hollywood. You're going to see their years precede Flash and all of these dudes, and Cool Herc and all of them who came from the islands and all of that stuff. When they was living in the islands, when King Mario was already making records over here. You know what I'm saying? So that's just that. That's a natural fact. If you look that up, you don't got to go to Wikipedia. Just look it up, Google it all throughout. You'll see that's the timeline. Attach the timeline.
Woo. Okay, so let me ask you another question. I want to ask you, man, you dropping fire. I'm loving this. I'm loving this subject because we get a chance to get into it. Now, I didn't grow up around a lot of Puerto Ricans at all. I really didn't because I'm West Coast. There wasn't a lot of Puerto Ricans or Cubans or none of that on the West Coast. I've encountered some Puerto Ricans or whatever, and I haven't been around them long enough to see what they identify as because, like I said, I didn't grow up that way. What do you think about not only Fat Joe doing it, but I'm gonna give you a two-part question. Fat Joe has probably been saying that, but when he was at his highest, I'm talking about when Guns Run, us on the West Coast, we never heard nothing about no Latino help build hip hop. I believe he didn't say any of those things because he knows the record labels would have shut him down. Because I believe in the '90s, black folk were more together and more on code. So my question to you is, now that that era has passed and we're amongst a generation where nobody is really trying to seek the knowledge, why do you think nobody, I'm talking about a foundational black American or a native black, as you want to call it, a descendant of slave, why isn't nobody that's on the same level as Fat Joe said, hey man, you're kind of spitting a false narrative, bro. Because black folk, we built this country. Why do you think nobody has said that to him? That's one. And two, why is it that none of these Latinos or any other racial group, they never come with documented history? It's just always something that they just kind of conjured up or made up. Why is it they never come with documented history? Why is it black folk always have the documented history, but no other racial group does?
They so first they won't come the in the hip hop game. I'm very, I say the game because that's what it is at this point. Like, they won't come at Fat Joe, the black one, the black rappers. They won't come at Fat Joe and say this because, number one, they don't know their hip hop history. Like, they don't know their history. Period. They don't know musical history. Um, and when we had a chance to control, we did control when black people controlled our own hip hop. At just briefly, shortly, um, we never took advantage of making sure that it is ours, like maintaining it, grabbing hold to it, and saying this is ours. It will always be ours, regardless of what we go through, regardless of what rights, liberation, and what we have. Rather we don't get reparations or not, this right here belongs to us. We never took hold of that. Uh, and when you see Fat Joe, uh, You got dudes, he's protected by dudes like Busta Rhymes, KRS-One, guys like that. KRS-One is basically, he's like a teacher of hip hop. This dude literally teaches hip hop. When I was in New York on Hunts Point over there, he was teaching over there a hip hop school. I mean, not hip hop school, but holding hip hop classes over there. He was KRS-One was a part of this whole DJ Kool Herc is the originator. So automatically they're giving people who are not technically from here, from the America, they're giving them the props and saying, you guys are the pioneers in this because hip hop started from you. So when you look at Busta Rhymes is another one. Busta Rhymes says that that's right, that's true, and he'll tell you. And Busta Rhymes, his I don't know if you know, Busta Rhymes' family is not from here. Like his lineage don't, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't knock people for their lineages, right? I go by if you black or you not. You can't fool me with that. But Busta Rhymes, he's his family Caribbean. You know what I'm saying? So, he doesn't, he's going to hold Fat Joe down and saying, yeah, you know what? It really originated. It was black and Latinos. They're all part of that. We are the world colorblind, society, rainbow coalition, got to bring everybody together type of thing. And, you have a lot of guys who won't come out and say this simply also because they'll get canceled. They see what happened in Nick Cannon. They see what happened to other rappers, man. If you come out and you say, yo, listen, hip hop is ours. It always been ours. It started with us. Then now they'll look at you like you're making this a racial thing. When whenever black people want to do something radical for our group, they want to say that we're militant. They want to say that we're racial or racist and Semitic, all this other crap. When it's highly impossible for us to be Semitic, it's impossible for black people to be racist at this point. You see, so he's got a backing and he's got a fan base. He's got a large Puerto Rican fan base, Spaniard Puerto Rican, not like black Latinos. Like he's got a large Spaniard fan base. You know what I'm saying? That will back him up. And because in every crew, you always got these Latinos running with us. In every religion, you got these Puerto Ricans or Latinos running with us. When you look at the Black Israelites, these Black Israelites groups, at first, nobody could be down with them. If you wasn't black, you could not be down. Then they start opening it up a little bit, and now you can be Latino and be down with them because they feel like you are part of one of their tribes. You know what I'm saying? Even like in the Islamic faith, I'm not talking about like Elijah Muhammad type. I'm talking about like the Arab, right? I mean, like at first they roll with the fact that only Arabs can be involved with their faith, even though Islam started with blacks. You know, but now they'll allow some Latinos to get in with it. Same thing with Christianity. Same thing with Buddhism. Like they allow them to get into it. You know what I'm saying? So it's a type of thing where if you come at them, it's as if you're coming at the dominant society as well, because they sided up with the dominant society. So if they are in every one of our groups, every one of our movements saying, what about us? You got the black folks who are just lighthearted. And, our greatest weakness is our greatest strength. It's what Dr. John Henrik Clarke said. When you look at black people, our greatest strength is our greatest weakness. Our greatest strength is our hearts. We care for everybody. We got a humanity. So we're always down to include other people. That's always been a part of it because we have humanity. The problem is we don't know how to separate that and say, okay, how do we care for our people first and then help other people second? So this is the type of situation that we in, Warren G. Like we look at these Latinos and we say they are part of us. And Fat Joe says, yeah, I can name some people and I can name this person, this rapper, this dancer. And yeah, they were part of hip hop, starting as hip hop. And then the rappers will stand there and not say anything. It's the same thing like when Tupac came out and dissed the whole East Coast. Everybody in the East Coast was quiet. They ain't say nothing. They tried to sneak this Tupac on the side here and there, but nobody like known in the industry really came at Tupac. Because to come at Tupac, he got a backing. So you come at Tupac, you coming at a whole nother coast. We wasn't ready for that. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing similar with Fat Joe. You come at Fat Joe, you coming at a whole nother race who attach themselves to us and say we all went along with it. We all went through the same thing. And they attach themselves, say they with us. And I kind of forgot just the second question that you asked.
No, you
My
answered it. No. You answered it. You answered it. Look, and I do agree. Busta Rhymes' family is not, he's not a native to this landmass like um, a lot of racial groups. I even look at Jamal Shine Barrow. It was nigga this, nigga that, all this other stuff. And I'm not saying that people change, but I feel like, he's Belizean. I feel like people attach themselves to us. They do. I like to call it the pink, the pop singer, the rock pop singer Pink. She comes, she knew she wasn't the template for pop music for white women. Britney Spears was the template, and she just wasn't a looker. Record labels are looking for lookers, and she wasn't it. So what did she do? She went with whoever would grab her. So of course, LaFace Records, they put her on, that record label, and then she makes one R&B album, which really wasn't that great. And then once she got her notoriety, she went back to her genre of music. Do you feel like the waters are muddy because we have too many We Are the World native black folk, and we don't do like the white Jewish community? The white Jewish community is not going to allow you to just come into their infrastructure and let you know what they're doing. Do you think we do need to be more like the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and his teaching? Because you can't just go join the Nation of Islam. You have to be disciplined. You have to know your studies. You have to know your history. Do you feel like we need to do more of that?
Yes, absolutely. And that's a great example you brought up, because with his teachings, he changed, and he literally had, and what he was saying is true, but he literally had men believe, black men and black women believe that we're more than just, we were born to be better than just some people who just to be productive. He said that, I'm not a Muslim, but he said, Allah he wants us to be great, not productive. Not, he wants us to illustrate greatness. Being productive is you're still under a system of slavery, your mind control. He's saying Allah wants us to be great. You know what I'm saying? And uh, he really transformed people's lives with this. We all know Elijah Muhammad had flaws. I mean, everybody does, right? I mean, everybody compromises a little bit. I mean, I'm not going to knock him for that. I think he was a greater man than that, but all in all, he was ahead of his time, because what he was teaching and what he was giving out at the time, in the in the 1900s, early 1900s and all of that, and following after Marcus Garvey. I mean, he was just ahead of his time. And we see what he's saying is being manifested now. And we're saying, dang, I wish our folks would have listened to him then. I mean, like hardcore, like as a whole nation, not just, certain chapters, but it's a whole nation. I think we do need to take that and innovate what Elijah Muhammad was doing. I think, as a matter of fact, you have Rizza Islam. He's leading the call with that, and there's another brother that was on Dr. Boyce Watkins. I can't forget. I forgot his name at the minute. But it's a couple of brothers who are saying that from Nation of Islam, who are saying that we need to take back what was ours, even the game of hip hop, and. But yes, we do need to take that and turn that and say, okay, this is ours. And I think another great example would be Fred Hampton. With Fred Hampton, his chapter of Chicago, he said, "Yo, you know what? You can't even be as far as in our chapter. You can't be a Black Panther unless you went through 6 months of training, reading and illustrating. You got to be able to spit this stuff out period, not just periodically, but consistently at any point in time. You know what I'm saying? And his biggest thing was education. You know what I'm saying? Education got to be the biggest motivation. And without education, you don't got no motivation. You have nothing else. So, he became a threat. But people, you grew up really educated and smart under Fred Hampton's chapters, and this is why he was able to pull together certain gangs, rival gangs, and he's able to pull them together and say, "Yo, listen, I know you don't like me. I know you don't like them across the street either, and I know they don't like you either. But let's come together for a common cause, just for a little bit. I ain't asking you to be friends and go to bed with them. I'm saying let's come together for a common cause. You know what I'm saying? And we trying to fight oppression. After that's done, they can go back to doing what you want to do." He was able to bring that together. Why? Because of the influence of, yo, you know what we have, let's make it ours. And one thing that, black people have not too great of a habit of doing is that we sell our stuff too fast. We create an idea, we innovate things, and then we say, man, you know what, to get our family out the hood, we're going to speak, somebody offer us some money, we're going to sell it. You know what I'm saying? Not looking further down the line. We look for the now because we've been oppressed and resources have been withheld for us for so long. When we get a chance to grab hold of it, grab sight of it, we sell it all. We don't look further down the line. You know what I'm saying? And Fred Hampton was able to see this. Elijah Muhammad, Marcus Garvey was able to see this. They were able to see, yo, you know what? If we can grab a hold of the community and make it ours, and then we take what is ours and we make it great. And we make a bunch of great men and great women. We already changing the world because those great men and great women are going to do the same, following consistently. They're going to continue to transport that, transmit and transfer that information to their children and children's children and their community all around them. You know what I'm saying? So those type of people had to be either exiled, killed, or um, character assassinated. You know what I'm saying? Those are the three things in which they'll do when you are a black person showing your people the power. So we were able to say, okay, we show our people the power to the game of hip hop and say, this is really ours. It's always been ours. And this is a $1 trillion industry. If we grab hold of this, we could take the reparations, but that right there, man, you making just as much as you would get from reparations, probably more. You know what I'm saying? If we make it ours and say this is going to circulate amongst us and any other group who wants to be a part of this genre, you could be a part of it. But you have to first acknowledge, you have to understand that these record companies are all ran by us. Don't try to come in and buy us out because we're not having it. You have to understand you're second, third seed. You're not first, right? So you're not going to come in with that what about us type of thing. Go make your own, or stay where you are in Puerto Rico and come up with your own music, and let's see how far that go. And one of the things is, I think, to your second question, Warren G, is that that feeds into your second question. When these groups, when these Latinos or Puerto Ricans, and I'm talking about the Spaniard, not the Latinos and blacks who identify with us, who are mixtures, they are mixed and stuff, and they say we understand our lineage. We're black like you. We're proud of it. I'm talking about those Spaniard blacks who sided up with the dominant society, but then they want to leech onto us. They don't come with any facts within their history because their history is ours. Their origin is our later part of history. With these Latinos, when they dig deeper to their history, they understand that the second president of Mexico was a black man and he abolished slavery. You know what I'm saying? So, and they celebrate this man every year. Now, when they come over here, they try to play it off and act like they don't know anything about it. They don't throw up his name. You know what I'm saying? They don't sell it. All that celebration come to a stop. Not only that, outside of Brazil, they won't acknowledge. They know this. Mexicans know this. Outside of Brazil, Mexico has the largest population of black people. I thought it was Cuba, but I found out it's not Cuba, it's Mexico, outside of Brazil. So they have the third largest amount of black people, black population there in Mexico. You know what I'm saying? But we'll never know it because those are the folks who can't cross the border. They won't allow them to, Biden and them won't allow them to cross the border. It's the lighter versions, the brown people, not the black ones. You know what I'm saying? So when you dig into their history, you find out that, oh, John Horse was a part of their history as well. He helped them with the Spanish American Wars. John Horse was a part of that. You see, John Horse was a part of their liberation. You know what I'm saying? And Ganga Yasper, that's another one. Black man from West Africa was it's a part of their history. They don't want to say these things because they know if we go into that, that is our history. The Olmec civilization that was around before the Mayas and the Aztecs and all of that. They gave civilization to South America, Mexico, all the Caribbeans and all of that. That was them. They won't say that, although they know this, and there's records of this. Like what I'm saying, you can go and not only just look it up, you can also look for scholars who actually research these things. They've gone way further than what I've done, and they've gone to these lands, such as Runoko Rashidi, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima with they came before Columbus. When you James
Hey yo,
Smalls,
no
George
conscience. Do
James.
you suck toes?
You know what I'm saying? What happened? Yeah, George James. You know what I'm saying? These are the dudes that actually went to these lands and discovered this and said, yo, okay, this is actual facts. And they brought it back to the blacks here, which they were where they're from. They brought it back to the blacks here. Tony Brown is another one. They brought it back to the blacks here and said, yo, this is what we discovered, not what whites gave us. We discovered this. You know what I'm saying? So for them to have to go back into their history, it would eliminate who they really are, and it points right back to us once again, like it always do. We the originators of everything. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the reasons. The other reason is a lot of them don't know that part. And I don't say that arrogantly as if I know everything, but that's just what it is. And there's a lot of blacks in America who don't know who Benjamin Banneker is. My sister said yesterday, I said Marcus Garvey name. She said, who's Marcus Garvey? I looked at her like, yo, she was crazy. One of my brother-in-law, I talked to him about our brother Booker T. Washington. He said he don't know who's Booker T. Washington. He asked me, who's Booker T. Washington? This is what he asked me. He's a black man. I don't down him. You know what I'm saying? We just communicate about that. This is who he is. But that's another part. A lot of them just don't know it either. But most of them do, and they know their history start with ours. They know that their lineage goes right back to ours. But they don't want to. They don't want to say that. They want to side up with the dominant society to again um, receive resources and receive tools and land that is owed to us. We need to take back the hip hop game, the hip hop industry, take it from being a game and make it ours. And I think that the more we become educated on our hip hop history, the more control we begin to start taking.
Ooh, yeah, you dropping some real knowledge. Like you really kind of you going into depth, and some of the questions I was going to ask you kind of already answered. I agree wholeheartedly with you. We're saying this is the thing that I think too, and I'm gonna hit you with another question. Um, you pretty much answered it. I don't really think a lot of these other racial groups know their history. I believe you. I wholeheartedly agree with you. I am definitely in alignment. I believe their history is tied to our history. And I believe that's why all these other racial groups, meaning from our brothers and sisters from the diaspora, as well as the Latino community as a whole, they don't really know their history. So I think they just attach it to us. Now, do you think that they're doing this and they're able to infiltrate not just hip hop, but our movement as a whole because black folk don't follow the guidelines and the preset template that Neely Fuller Jr. Uh, set up for us as far as us being on code? Do you think they're able to basically Fat Joe, Jennifer Lopez, all these people, they're able to kind of code switch and be a transformer. 1 minute they're Latino, just like Takashi Snitch Nine. Then the next minute it's nigga, nigga, nigga. Because remember, Jennifer Lopez was saying nigga too when she was around Herb Gotti in there. But now when she's around her people, she don't ever say nigga. Now she's talking about, well, what about for Latino women? Do you think that this is happening partially because black folk, native black, foundational black Americans are not on code with each other? Hey, what's going on, Sister Sharon? Shout out to her too.
Yes, it's it kind of breaks my heart to kind of say this. I really love black people, but we we just have a nasty habit of creating a code that we never need. O.W. Gurley, when he bought up his land in Tulsa, Oklahoma, along with other guys, and they put their money together and said, we're going to make this town for us, by us, FUBU, I guess, right? They're going to make it for us, by us. Okay. O.W. Gurley didn't say, well, you know what? Let's go to some Latino banks, or let's go to the white banks and see if we can get some loans and things like that. Let's try to build these schools for all of us. Let's try to do it for all of us, for all people. He didn't say that, man. Um, they put their money together, and you see it's a famous picture of uh the guys from all the investors and the businessmen from Wall Street. They got that one famous picture. It's about 20 of them sitting in the black and white. Those are all the investors who invest in. O.W. Gurley sitting right there in the middle. These guys said, we make a bus line. A bus line is going to be made for our people. The city, they sold the bus line to the city of Tulsa, but they said it's still going to be black, for blacks, black operated. But in order for us to reach more black people outside the area and bring them into it, we can't just stay confined like Wakanda type. Like we're just Wakandas. Like we got to come outside, but for more of our people and make it known that they have a place they can come to for refuge. This is what he did. Black folks began, I wouldn't say they start following that, because you had some black towns who was around before that, such as like Durham and Wilmington. They were around, had black towns before that. But even with Wilmington, one of their mistakes in Wilmington is that they allowed the whites to come in and be a part of it. It started out with blacks, but they allowed the whites to come in and be a part of their movements. And when you allow the whites to come in and be a part of your community, now you have other whites who are able to come in and scope and say, oh, we see what they're doing, and they don't like that. They can't get with it. It's not just, oh, I just don't like them. It's more so they're gaining power. We're losing power. We cannot have that. We got to burn the town down, and this is what happens. We create a whole new code of let's do it for everybody. The pioneer starts out and says, let's do it for us. A decade later, someone else comes along and says, let's do it for all people. The Niagara movement, with W.E.B. Du Bois, that started out for blacks. It's supposed to have been for blacks. They side up with these white women who created and merged into the NAACP, and now becomes a movement for all colored people. You know what I'm saying? Like it started out for us, and we go and create a whole nother lane and say, let's do it for everybody. We don't follow and stay and stick to the code, our again with John, the great John Henry Clark, what he said is that our greatest strength is our greatest weakness. We are we have humanity in which we want everybody to do well. We are into the mode now, really deep right now at this moment, Warren G and Sister Sharon, where we are we we have a lot of folks who say, let's do this for us. But it's so later far gone now that it's a whole nother side out there of black folks. I'm talking about black folks who's born here in America, who say, what about all people? We got to do it for everybody because my nephew is mixed. So if my nephew is mixed, we got to do it for his mother who's Spaniard. So it got to be for everybody. Everybody got to get rights. We don't stick to the code of our ethics. Our code of ethics has got to be black people first. We're not saying we can't take care of other people. I think it would be smart for us to take care of other people because now we real it's like reverse capitalism in a positive way. So I mean, like they have to end up owing us. They're in debt to us, right? But we create a whole nother lane, and I like I said, I hate to say that about as black people, like, but that's just what we do. Now you have the situation where not only blacks here born in America, you got blacks coming from different parts of the world who are siding up with those blacks who are against the type of liberation and ownership that we want. And they say, well, yeah, but about all people. It's about all of us, right? Like, it's about not just, America. It's about Jamaica too. It's not about Jamaica. It's about Africa too. It ain't about Africa. It's about Australia. It's about all of us, right? Like we all should give reparations, and that's where it pretty much falls into. We all should own hip hop, right? Because there's hip hop everywhere. And then now you have the Asians coming in. They did the same thing. They sat by on the sidelines and they watched us break dance. They did what they do best. That's what Asians do best. This is a fact. I don't care if anyone gets mad. They sit on the sideline, they watch, and then they restructure it and innovate it. That's what they do. They don't create. They just innovate. They're very great at innovating. That's what they do. They did it with the railroad. They did it with the train. We built the trains because we built the steam engines. We built the brake lubricants. You know what I'm saying? Because it was just black saw it and said, there's too many deaths happening. Too many of our people doing it. Too many of our people are dying, right? So we built, our ancestors built the brakes with lubrication in them so that it can stop, the train can come to a stop properly without overheating. So that and then what we did, we continued to manufacture it. The whites kind of took over a little bit. They kept trying to mimic it to what people were saying, is this the real McCoy? From Elijah McCoy. He created that. So they said, is this the real McCoy? You know what I'm saying? And then then what we start saying, well, we want to make this for everybody because everybody is getting hurt. Again, we create a whole nother lane that was never meant to be created, and we get swallowed up into that type of situation where now politically we got to make sure that if we're going to get our liberation, we got to make sure everybody else get their liberation, or gets their resources, land, tools, and resources before we get ours. In essence, like I said, we create a whole nother lane that should not have been created.
Woo, dropping fire. Go ahead, Sister Sharon. Go ahead. You've been unmuted. Go ahead and give your perspective on this subject matter today.
I see it said Black Americans versus racial hate. Um, I think the hate is going to be there, but I think this time we as Black people, we got to make it like you say, healthy to put ourselves first. That's it. We can't make sure no other race or other Black people that's from a different diaspora, not FBA, get reparations before us because that's what's been happening. Ukrainians and everybody else. So it's just now just time to flip the switch back to how it should be. We gotta put ourselves first, and that's gotta be first and foremost. And like I said, if not, just financial boycott. That's what I said, all across the board. Because you can see it now. Certain businesses are suffering because of the lack of the black dollar. So just, just keep it going. And with that, I land my plane.
Ooh.
And
Hey, you heard what she said? She said that if anybody in here, she said, and keep boycotting because a lot of businesses are suffering because we are supporting them. My question I want to ask y'all, because I already know, why is it when I'm talking about black folk that's been in this country for years, why is it when we're for everybody, it's okay? But once we say, okay, well, we supported everybody long enough, we're going to be for us because we are locked and boxed out of the wealth. We don't have a lot of black businesses. We don't have black banks. We don't have no black infrastructure economically for black folk. And I'm not talking about the Caribbean or our Latino brothers and sisters. Why is it once we start to focus on us and have self intrinsic value and self pride in ourselves, they use that false narrative of we're being divisive? Go ahead, my brother. Whoever wants to go first. If David, you can go first, and then my sister Sharon can go, and then Napalm can go last.
if you want, we can. I'll let Napalm go first, if being that he didn't have a chance to get his point across yet. If he wants to, if not, then I'll go.
Brother Napalm, go ahead. Go ahead and speak your piece on that
That's
question.
right. How y'all doing? Everything good, man. Yeah. So I think what it is too is like we're like considered on the bottom of the totem pole or whatever. So when they come over here, it's like, oh well, I'm better than the niggas, or I'm better than them down there, and us standing up for ourselves means that we gonna be like basically in our rightful position as on top of the food chain because we're like we drive all the culture in this motherfucker. We, what I'm saying, we like the shit. So they don't want to feel like we over them, or they kind of like don't want the white supremacist structure to like stay. They don't want it to change. They want to say, okay, African Americans on the bottom, I'm an immigrant or whatever. I'm not a white man, but at least I'm better than them. And I think a lot of them kind of have a mentality that when they come over here, it's like, oh well, shit, look how good the slaves doing, because they see us on TV, they see us getting it, and they like, well, damn, if some damn slaves can do that shit, I can do that. And then I think they get over here and they see it ain't all that great for us, and they just they feel like they better for whatever reason. I don't know, man. It's kind of crazy, but I'll let my plane there.
Sister Sharon, before you go, I got Napalm, man. Man, you dropping jewels because that's what I used to think too. Once I read Dr. Claude Anderson's book, I used to always be like, okay, if we're the permanent underclass and y'all coming over here, y'all like the way it is, and now it's starting to make sense because once black folk, native blacks, foundational black Americans, whatever, once we start to have intrinsic value in ourselves, I noticed everything has shifted. Now you have people like that Joe want to take claim for hip hop because I feel like other racial groups are watching and seeing what's going on. So I do agree with you. Go ahead, Sister Sharon. What do you got to say about that?
Well, tell you the truth, I don't know. Wait, what was the question again? I'm sorry, because you said something threw me off. What was the question again?
No, I said, why is it when we cheer for other racial groups, it's fine? We invite
Oh,
the Puerto Ricans, we do all that. But remember, as David said, the Puerto Ricans, they have their Puerto Rican Day parade. When have you ever seen a foundational Black American parade? No, no diaspora people, no Caribbean people who can know that they come from the plantation and they're here and we celebrate them. Why is it once we start to have intrinsic value in us and what we've done for this country, they say it's divisive, they say it's racist? Why is that?
oh, that's because, see, like you said, when they come here, they like the fact that the way it is. But what they don't realize is that People always say, "Oh yeah, I'm better than them. I'm better than them," but what you don't realize that you when you coming in, you trying how you say they want it. They don't realize all that's going to shift, and then when it shifts, they don't want to be the one on the bottom, but it's going to happen eventually, because this country, I don't care where you come from, this country work your ass to the bone. And when you see other people, other financial Americans finally going on vacation, like, what's wrong? Why they not capable? Why they now they not frowning? Not no, we not suffering. We not doing that no more. You understand? Like when you see the shift, even though, like I said, it's coming way before reparation, because the fact realize we should have been got reparations, but a lot of us didn't know what was underhandedly going on with America. But also, like I said, they just come into the shift. They like the way it was before. Now they see it's not going to stay that way. Now everybody gonna say, oh, they want to do some old lying focal point or something else. That's it. And I land my plane.
Go ahead, David. No compromise, man. You hit us with something.
Yeah, I agree with Sharon. Definitely, what they have a gene in them. They have a part of that Eurocentric DNA in them. You know what I'm saying? And that Eurocentric DNA is it triggers when you see black folks beginning to take pride and gain power. What's the first thing they want to do? They either want to steal from us, kill us, or destroy us. That's what they do. Kill, steal, and destroy. That's what they came to do. That's what they've come to do. That's their whole new world order. Um, so if we begin to take pride and we began to elevate ourselves through our pride, and we do something with our pride and creating power, because it's all about creating power, they understand that they have a gene or a DNA structure inside of them that is going to trigger and say, well, you know what? If they do, they may not take us with them, because they've been oppressed so long. They've been denied so long. They may just move on without us. So we are going to be losing power. And if we lose power, they gain power. That means they're back on top again and things are going to be done their way. We can't have that. You know what I'm saying? So um, they want to be able to, again, become leeches, I would say. They just want to be around to reap the benefits. No hard work. Just reap the benefits. That's that. Let's think about it. You have people saying, well, what about the Mexicans that, they come over and they do well. They come from nothing. And you hear the stories even from Mexicans. They'll say, well, we came from this place or that place and we had nothing. We had to, we couldn't have no water. We couldn't drink water. We had to drink it from a pond, dirty pond. They give you their testimony and you say, man, I'm sorry you had to go through that. And they say, well, we're doing better now. So we basically that motto of, we pulled ourselves up by the bootstraps. Why can't you do it? Right? But see, what happens is that everything that they're doing now, when you come over, you see them, they're building these homes and houses everywhere you turn around. They're a part of the construction workers, and they're part of that whole construction site where they're building these homes and trailers and cars, things like that. They're a part of it. But the whole thing is that why are you over here? If you have those skills, take those skills back to Mexico and develop something there. And you can have your own industry. You can have your own nationhood there. Why come here? That's because you're coming here to reap the benefits. These buildings and structures and different type of technology devices that you are getting involved in with building or innovating, our people already did that. It just so happens that we didn't have any rights at the time to these patenting offices. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times they were stealing our ideas and they were stealing our creations and saying that they created it. Taking, when we try to take them to court, take these people to court, some of us won, some of us didn't. You know what I'm saying? For our own path, for our own ideas. And that's what it came down to. You coming over here and you are saying, well, you could pull yourself up by the bootstraps. And we say, okay, we created everything that you enjoy. And the reason why you're able to even come over here is because of the civil rights that our people died for. You know what I'm saying? Civil rights for you, because it was supposed to be a movement for us, for blacks only. And then you had other civil rights leaders. They let other race groups get in because they screamed that, what about us type of crap. And they said, okay, we got to let everybody else in too. The bigger the number, the more support we have. This is what they believe. I'm not saying it's true, but that's what they believe. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, when you look at it all in all, we began to say, okay, well, what you are enjoying, we built. So we are taking pride in what you are enjoying. We're taking pride in that, and we're claiming that and saying, hey, you know what? Lewis Latimer built, he made the light bulb. He didn't just do the whole filament. He created the light bulb. We're taking pride in that, and we're saying he was one of us. He was one of ours. So we are proud of someone like that. We want to celebrate someone like that. And they say, what about us? You know, they scream that whole crap out. Again, something triggers in their DNA that says we can't allow these blacks to get ahead. And they don't understand. And because they can't attach themselves to their history, because their history is our history, it originates with us civilizing and bringing civilization to their areas and starting cultural practices in their area. They're saying, well, you know what? We can't go that far back. So it frustrates them. So they got to call out these little type of names. And again, that's something that I think blacks, as black people here, we need to take responsibility for that because we allowed it. You know what I'm saying? Even though we did all of this and we take the pride and we did so many things, we allowed them when they say, well, we're just like you too. So we can say nigga too, right? Because we're just like you. We should have been like, yo, you know what? If this is what they're gonna go by, then we need to cut that word out. Cause they, you know what I'm saying, the way that they using it, nah. But or we can identify it to only as us, and whoever else is saying this, we need to really go hard with fighting for a law to be passed in which nobody can use that as a hate crime. You know, things like that. We, just, things, a black person being called a coon and all of that from another race, that should be a hate crime. You know what I'm saying? Along with the obvious hate crimes. But that should be another hate crime, the verbal type of social type of hate crimes. But again, we don't have the power, and they don't, because we don't have the power as a whole, not just individual, because we don't have the power as a whole, they're not going to respect that. These white folks have the power as a whole. You have Irish who will not get along with any Italians, but to be able to get some laws passed, they'll get together and call themselves Europeans just so they can get a law passed. After the law is passed and they get their resources and tools and things like that, they move on and they continue on with their beef or with their separation. But they come together for a common goal. As black people, we haven't done that. We haven't reached that point. You know what I'm saying? Because even as you have the whole movement, like with the B1 Black First or the FBA movement, you have these movements that's taking the country by storm. You still have that other side that are saying, we gotta look out for all people. It's not just blacks. Brother Cornell West is one of them. He's a great scholar, one of the greatest scholars we've ever, the black race ever produced. But he's one of those, we got to do it for all people. That's just what it is. He went toe to toe with Sister Soldier. Sister Soldier had to shut him down, and it was like, it's about black. He came out talking about it's about all. So as long as you got those people in those high places, those type of historians who are not going to really stand by us, for us, and then we're not doing it in the community, we're not following up, I'm talking about as a whole, getting on code starting now, then you're going to continue to have that, brother. where they're going to leech on, and of course they're going to get upset, and it's going to be okay for them to it's going to be okay for us to take value in them, but to take value in ourselves, which that would entail that we have the power, and we're going to start moving and acting towards obtaining and maintaining our power. They don't want that to happen. You know what I'm saying? They got to put an end to it. So they side up with the dominant society, not knowing what they're doing. They're engaging in European centric activities.
Ooh. Look, I agree with everybody and everything. I just have been noticing that the more shout out to the boy, my homeboy Roy, that's in the thing, and Jay Thomas as well. I've been noticing the more we start to claim our lineage and know our history, the more hate we're starting to receive. I was even watching this clip. I know y'all probably saw. I did a podcast on it about it was about one of the housewives or medicine women, and somebody kept retweeting it. So I looked at it, and that made me want to go like really, really pay attention and watch it. And this African sister, and there was a foundational Black American sister from Detroit. You know, I did all my little thorough research. I went on their little website so I can remember, because you know those type of shows I don't really take serious. And I just remember the FBA sister was like joking with her, like, "You're not a good lawyer." The other sister that was from the diaspora was like, "I'm African, I'm Ghanaian. We're either doctors, lawyers, and all this other stuff." Now I noticed, because she was a lawyer, and I noticed all the other FBA sisters that were of stature, they didn't say anything. They just let that sister, that FBA sister, just stand there. Now, I would have definitely said the same thing that you said, David. I'm very much a proponent of when a person comes and tells me they came here with $1 in their pocket and they built this, and I said, you're here for unearned benefits, as Dr. Claude Anderson teaches us. And why don't you take those resources that you've learned and go build up your own homeland? That would make you great in your country. I think a lot of other racial groups don't want to do that because it's real work. Why would I want to do real work when I can come here and get unearned benefits and live like a king or a queen? Now, my question to y'all is, why isn't it that those who know the knowledge, foundational Black Americans who know the knowledge, because we just established a lot of other racial groups, they don't know history. They don't read. Why is it a lot of us that do know don't check it at the door? Because if we start checking it, this won't be a problem. And I'll give you an example. I worked corporate plantation. I worked with this Latino brother, and he was going on and on about how they treat Mexicans like shit, and this is a bunch of bullshit, and we built this country. And I stopped him and I said, "You did not build this country. There's documented history, and I have way too many books that tells me otherwise. Now, if you can find some books, we can sit down and have a discussion. But if you can't find any books, you should not say that, because that's a false narrative." Why are a lot of us not doing that? Do y'all think that we want to be liked by other racial groups and we care what they think? Or I don't know what it is, but why are we not standing on our square when it comes to our history and our knowledge and what we know? Whoever wants to go first, go ahead.
Uh, well, I would think I don't know what like. Well, when one time I met, I just want to get on the other brother, no compromise. Some he said, I'm sorry. Uh, I met Dr. Cornelius one time. I think he's somewhat a Pan Africanist, so that's why he probably for everybody. Or I see him speak at a lot of Pan Africanist meetings, so that's why I think he's for everybody. And the reason why we don't check people right away is either you get in a big argument, or I don't know, you be like, "Ah, forget it." I don't know. We as Black people sometimes we take this for granted. We don't explain. I don't know. We don't explain to everybody. It's like you got to be really somebody else for us to explain something to you. But other than that, if you don't know, we be like, "Oh well," we don't say nothing. So I don't know. I think that's on us. And now land my plane.
Okay, before the next person, either napalm or no compromise. And I'll tell you, I said it real calm, because you know us, we get very hyped and emotional when we know stuff, and we know matter of factly, and we read and we well read. But what I did was I said it very calmly, and I said, but documented history says that foundational Black Americans, and this was like 4 or 5 years ago, that we built this country. I can give you 5 books, and do you want me to give them to you? And you bring me your books that states that Latinos built this country. And if you are, I even went as farther to say, if you are tracing your lineage back to Native Americans, then we really could have a conversation, because Native Americans were a part of those group, that racial group that was the so-called Native Americans that was partnering up with the dominant society to catch slaves. So do you want me to go there as well? I said, just bring your documented history. I can bring mine. We can sit down. We can have a conversation. Not here at work. We can go to Starbucks or whatever. But I can't allow you to say that, because that's a false narrative. But Napalm, go ahead, my brother.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm thinking a lot of time. I think it's like a combination, because there's some that, you know, they not gonna say nothing because they don't want to mess up their little bag. You know what I'm saying? Then there's the other ones that, you know, they might have 1 or 2 white friends or 1 or 2 Latino or Mexican friends, and they kind of don't want to, you know, they don't want to make them feel uncomfortable, or don't want to take a stance where they're gonna have to have a hard conversation with their so-called friend. So I think part of it is just, you know, kind of like not even self-preservation, but just like looking out for self and not really looking out for the group. You know what I'm saying? And you know, like me, I one time when I was like 18, I was working at a warehouse, and it was like a gang of Mexicans there or whatever, and like there was Black people there, you know, but you know, Mexicans will say crazy stuff like, oh yeah, you know, we helped build this country and this and that, and I'd be like, well, I don't know, I ain't never you know, in all my schooling, I ain't never heard of no Mexican in no cotton field or none of that shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like weird that they say stuff. And like I said, the other ones who was, you know, because they be up kissing, you know, hanging with them, you know, blazing with them or whatever, they look like stay silent. And they let me just be out there by myself having these discussions. I mean, in a warehouse full of like hundreds of Mexicans. You know what I'm saying? And it's like people, they just scared. I think a lot of people are just scared. You know what I'm saying? But I'll land my plane on that one.
Before my brother David goes, I just want to champion you, my brother. And the reason why I want to champion you, man, because that's very bold of you. And I was in a similar situation, kind of like that too. It wasn't as many, but I worked in a situation where I was the only Black. And that's what kind of made me start reading and understanding my history. And, you know, once you do come into the knowledge, you just have to come into a little bit of knowledge. They'll stray away. Because that's the one thing that I have noticed. Once you start asking for documented history, my brother, watch what happens. Because I've done it. I've been like, well, bring me your documented history and we can have a conversation. It's crickets. Because these other racial groups don't know their own history. I worked with a Puerto Rican before, and he was a cool ass brother. And I said, well, you're Puerto Rican, but you speak Spanish. So, but you're not a Spaniard, because if you were a Spaniard, you'd be from Spain. So I don't understand that. Do you know that? He didn't even know it.
Yep.
He didn't even know it. Look, he looked at me like, man, what? And everybody around was shocked that I said that. I said, well, you speak Spanish, but you're not a Spaniard. And he was like, what do you mean? I said, you know, like Vega from Street Fighter? It was like, and he was like, well, what do you mean? I said, you know, when you play Street Fighter is going to give you your first elements of education on racial groups. You know what I mean? It's going to give you how Americans will copy other racial groups' arts, like how you have Raul, who's from Japan, and he knows karate, but then you got Ken, who does the same thing as Raul, but he's from USA, and then you got Thailand, or not Thailand, but you got an Egyptian that's supposed to be, you know, it breaks a lot of that down. And I said, but bro, you're not from Spain. Spaniards, I said, real. He said, well, tell me what a real Spaniard is. I said, Mark and Pau Gasol. Those are real Spaniards. And he said, I didn't know that. I said, exactly. And you're not them. So you should know your history, and he didn't say anything out there. He just kind of got quiet. I think I think he didn't know whether to be offended or to kind of go look it up. And I think a lot of racial groups, they don't read and they don't understand that. So I think that's where the issue lies. And I do give you props because, and David, I want you to touch on this too, my brother. Why is it this brother was in a warehouse full of Mexicans, and all the black people just sat there and let him talk? Like they didn't even back him up. They didn't even do nothing. And a lot of black people will do that. So, David, why is that? Why does that happen, my brother?
Wow. So I think the biggest thing is simply because the boldness is not there. We've been taught to do that. We've been conditioned to do that from slavery. When you see a black about to rebel or question the system, question the information, what they are going to do is they're going to beat this black into submission in front of his folks, in front of all of his family and friends, his I would say slave community. Therefore, the next time someone questions something, that black group, they ain't gonna question you. They ain't gonna question master again. They're gonna stay quiet. They're gonna turn their heads because they know if they participate, then you may be beaten into submission. You may have your child sold. You know what I mean? Your child may be raped. You may be raped. You know what I'm saying? You may be sold to a whole nother state. You're going to suffer a consequence. They're just not going to let you slide. You know what I'm saying? So we've been conditioned. And when you do things, when you practice things more than 3 times consistently, it becomes a part of your DNA structure. Dr. Joy DeGruy, she speaks about this in her books, one, The Healing, and the other one, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, in which she talks about how when you practice a certain trauma, or when you experience a trauma that was practiced on you multiple times, it can be directly or indirectly. That changes your DNA structure a bit. And when you have children, your children will illustrate that same type of trauma. If you have black people who have that trauma of fear in them, I'm not going to say nothing when nobody else is speaking out because that's him, that's not me. That's the situation that this brother went through, where he was surrounded by people who say, that's him, that ain't me, man. You know what I'm saying? I got to make him going at them. They ain't got nothing to do with what I'm doing, man. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to get through the day. I got to support my family, right? They are subjected to that post-traumatic slave syndrome. And you seen that brother seen a slave syndrome. Had this been during slavery time, I'm talking about in the 1800s, son, that brother would that brother I think he probably left, but that brother would have been the rebellion, and the people around him would have been the people who would have said, we ain't gonna get down with that. That didn't happen in all plantations, though, is what I'm saying. For the most part, black people did fight. Black people were bold. The other side of it is that these people, they don't know the historical part of it. And I think just knowing a little bit of everything would get you far. A little bit of everything. You don't have to know everything. It's impossible to know everything. But to take that certain specific area and say, I'm going to study that area, and I'm going to cross-reference, and I'm going to bring up every book that person has written. I'm going to read it, or I'm going to read one of them. I'm going to listen to their speeches more than once. I'm going to look at who their followers are. And I'm going to go through their followers' books and stuff like that too. Reading is fundamental. You know what I'm saying? And black people are smart. Black people will read, even if it's in a book. Black people will read if it's in a book. So I think that, you know, that brother had that experience with that. And I think that it's very unfortunate. I've seen it happen too, where I've come out and try to be bold and speak for my people. I've been on the other side where I'm like, man, I wish I can say something, but I just can't. I've been on the side, man. I remember being in New York where you had these black Israelites. I'm talking about the radical ones who, they're on the street corners and garments, things like that, and they're speaking, and some of the things they're saying, it's like, okay, I get that. And then the other things that they say is like, I disagree with a lot of what they say. I don't hate the brothers, but I disagree with about 80% of what they say and what they believe in. You know what I'm saying? So I say, dang, man, at the time, this is like in 2004, and I'm like, man, I don't know anything to really combat what they saying. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're really going after people's emotions. They're going, and these Christians are attacking them with their emotions, and they're trying to argue these dudes, and they're losing every single time because you're coming at it the wrong way. You don't know enough. If you don't have to stand up there to debate, but just conveying information, that goes further. So I think knowing a lot, knowing a little bit of a lot will get you a long way. And because you have a lot of us as brothers and sisters, black people, we don't know any further than slavery or civil rights, or we can name about, 2 or 3 black leaders, but we can name the first things that they've done, but we can't get into a type of person and character that they studied. The person that they studied demonstrated. You know what I'm saying? Like that we don't know those parts that's really going to have an impact on our lives. The whys and the whats and the hows. Not, again, not being the first in this and the first in that, but just understanding the whys. We don't know that. You know what I'm saying? We haven't come to that point. So yeah, bro, it's that type of situation. And it's very unfortunate. That's why we don't know enough history. And the other part, we haven't come to that boldness. And I'm not saying all. I'm just saying the people that brother experienced, they either had expressed the culture of European, type of the European of culture of individualism, and they said, well, that's him, not me. And also the fear factor, not knowing enough.
All right, before I get my brother Roy in here real quick, go ahead, Sister Sharon, drop us something, and then my brother Roy, go ahead and give us some knowledge too.
Okay, I know exactly that whole scenario. He was outnumbered, and then it was some blacks in the corner, and they let him stand by himself, and he was saying all he said. I understand that, cause like, all right, I'm the youngest of 5, right? And I know I always went to a beat of a different drum. So you know how in my house it was always the 4 against 1, and that was me, right? And I'm the youngest, right? But anyway, my thing is that a lot of us been conditioned to be the go along gang. You know what I'm saying? Regardless if it's money, let me shut up, let me get that bag, or man, I don't feel like it. Look, I don't know him, whatever it is. All those other blacks chose to stand in the corner and say, yo, I ain't gonna even say nothing. Let money say whatever he gonna say. And that's messed up because I always been that person that I'm gonna speak my mind regardless. You know how they used to have a saying back in the day, said 500 Frenchmen can't be wrong. I used to tell my brothers and sisters 5 million Frenchmen are wrong. I don't give a damn. So I know how that brother felt when he was telling the Mexicans, "You ain't built nothing, and you just got here." And all the other blacks sit in the corner. They just a go along gang, and that's a shame because a lot of us, regardless of money reasons or whatever, you don't want to clash with nobody on the job. They just been trained that way. They've been the go along gang, and you just, man, I ain't gonna say nothing. I'm just going along, get this bag. I'm get off work. I ain't even got to deal with them whiteys after 5 o'clock. So that's it. So, that's how we been, and I land my plane.
All right, go ahead, brother Roy, and then we'll get with brother Napalm after that. Brother Roy, can you hear us? All right. We can barely hear you. Okay, we'll come back to you. Don't trip. We'll come back. All right. Before we go to napalm, I do agree with this brother. I have been in that predicament before, and most black folk ain't gonna say anything. The one thing and a little trick that I can give a lot of people: the more people see you reading on your breaks and on your lunch, and the more introverted you become and compartmentalized you become, the more they'll leave you alone. And the more they'll stop trying to do stuff because they're going to understand that, okay, this is an educated nigga. Like, he ain't just no dummy walking around here listening to music. And you say, well, Warren, what do you mean? What you mean, FBA all day? What you mean? I did it. Once I read Black Letter White Wealth, one of the first books I read really in depth was The Secret Relationship Between Jews and Blacks. And I didn't take that to work. I was just reading at home. By the time I got to Dr. Joy DeGroove's book and Dr. Francois Welsing's, once I started reading those books, I didn't want to put them down, so I started taking them to work. And I wasn't thinking nothing of it because, sometimes people would ask me. But I am going to tell you this. Once I started reading books like Behold the Pale Horse and The Burglary, the J. Edgar Hoover Secret FBI, that's talking about black folk. Once I started reading those books, it just kind of widened my view. And then I wasn't even paying attention. Somebody brought it to my attention at work. And it was funny. It was a Latino brother, a Mexican dude. And he was just like, they don't say nothing to you because they know you're not stupid. And they know that, you're always reading. Every time we see you, you always at your cubicle reading. Like on your breaks, on your lunch, like you don't really want to talk, you just want to read. And when you have conversations with people, it ain't no dumb shit. And that really warded off. It was like fly repellent. It really, really got rid of a lot of nonsense because people knew, don't try to come at me with no racial bullshit. Don't try to come at me with no stupid stuff because I'm going to walk rings around you intellectually. Because I was always reading. And that's a good trick to use against them. Because if you're on your break and you're on your lunch and they see you, they can't say anything to you and they can't talk to you because the majority of the other racial groups, they don't know what you're reading. They have no idea. It doesn't matter what book it is. Unless it's a Harriet Tubman book or a Martin Luther King book, they have nothing for us. So we got to get into our studies like Dave from No Compromise said. Go ahead, Napalm.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, what I was gonna say was how it ended up playing out was you said something that reminded me of kind of like the rest of the conversation. So I kind of went deeper and I told him, why do you think all of you guys from South America, why do you think you Catholics? Why do you think we Christians? That's because white people got us who happen to be Christians, Europeans, and Europeans who happen to speak Spanish and was Catholic came and oppressed y'all. So y'all Catholics, because y'all were oppressed by Catholics. We're Christians because we was oppressed by Christians, but we all pretty much natives if you really want to look at it, blah, blah, blah. So, man, before you know it, they was pretty much like they respected me. You can't not respect somebody who know what they're talking about. And the interesting thing is they didn't know that. They never made that connection. So a lot of South Americans, Guatemalans and all that, they just don't know. And they come over here and they get indoctrinated by like white supremacy and all that, you know what I'm saying, or whatever, or is down there too, but they just don't really know their history, like at all, period. You know what I'm saying? So I'll land my plane, brother. Thank you.
No problem. Brother Roy, you want to get in on it or you still making popcorn? If you are, it's not a big deal. We just glad you're here, man. But I'll say this, man, because I'm not one to be a big defender of other antics and all this other stuff, but I've been in those positions where at first, when you don't have knowledge, you feel like you're constantly defending your blackness. Once you start to become into who you are and the knowledge and what your people did for this country, that goes out the window. And I knew it because a lot of other people that I work with, they knew it too. They knew it, and that's when you said Guatemalan, because I work with a Guatemalan dude, and me and him is real cool. And let me tell you why me and him is real cool, because he straight told me, I respect that you know your history. and that you know what you're talking about, and you're not just running around here saying what you heard on the news. He's like, every time I see you, you reading the book or you quoting the book. He was like, and and you know what I would do? Instead of arguing somebody or browbeating them, you know what I started doing? Hey man, bring me your books that you read, and I'll give you some books that I read. You know what I mean? And then maybe we can have a different perspective on what's going on. And you know what that brother said, basically? That brother basically was like, man, I don't read like that. And he was like, and that's what opened up my eyes to know a lot of these other racial groups, they don't read like that. Even the dominant society don't read. The dominant society is going off of, they're on auto replay, autopilot. They don't know their history. They don't know what's going on. They don't even care. That's why if you notice the majority of the people that are from the dominant society, which is damn near every other racial group, their talking points is from a political standpoint. It's not from any books that they've read, any documented history, anything that states, hey, this is what was read, this is what policy that was signed in. They don't even know policy. They just come at a lot of black people sideways because they know a lot of times we have a tendency to be emotional. We don't know how to respond. We react. We can't be reactionary. We have to know how to respond. And a lot of us don't know how to respond because, like our brother David said, my brother from No Compromise, he says all the time, nationhood, building a nationhood. Stop trying to be in competition with everybody and start understanding people's perspective. I was in this space where they were kind of questioning methods of, one of our thought leaders. I didn't jump in that space and I just listened to what they had to say. We could agree to disagree. I'm from the school of this. I'm not about to be questioning my people when I done watched 50 or how many presidents be in office, keep passing benign neglect policies, siphon and funnel money to their racial group, which is the dominant society, keep the lock and boxes out of the wealth. I'm not going to sit up here and I'm not going to go question a brother. I'm going to take all that energy and turn it towards every other racial group who come amongst us, make money off of us, and then they go back with their own. And that's the issues that I have a lot with a lot of other racial groups, because they do that. And then when you call them out, they try to flip it, but they only are able to do that with people that don't know how to respond. Like us, you have to know how to respond. Case in point, I was at Corporate Plantation. I was reading this book called Behold the Pale Horse by William Cooper. And this higher up guy walked up and was like, oh, that looks like a book my 12-year-old son could read. And I started laughing and I said, I doubt you or your 12-year-old son could grasp the concepts that are in this book. And I just walked off. And then I laughed at him. And then he got mad and turned red. And then he wanted to, well, tell me what the book is about. I said, you should just go read it. Don't you have an Amazon account? And then after that, he left me the hell alone because he was embarrassed and he felt stupid, because that's what they do. Because y'all remember there was a time when we couldn't read? So you know what happens when they see a black male reading, quiet, not saying anything. We have to understand these things. And when look, this is not no shit I made up. I experienced this firsthand at the Corporate Plantation. They try to make a rule where you couldn't even read, and I was laughing because I was like, well, when you bring me the policy from Human Resources, then I'll comply. And then they left me alone because they were just so agitated that I was in my own world and I was self-powered. That's why. So that's the thing that I think the majority of people gotta have when they're dealing. Because a lot of us, we work at the Corporate Plantation. Let's keep it a buck, and we have to have rules. I'm telling you, I'm kind of working on this book. I think I'm gonna write a book about specifically the guidelines and rules and regulations to the Corporate Plantation. Because when you go work with these people, they're gonna poke, prod. They're gonna try to get you to go out drinking with them. They're gonna try to give you drugs. They're gonna try to get anything so you can tell all your personal business and you can be an open book. But if you notice, they're not telling you shit. Just like the white Jewish community, they get reparations. Do y'all see them jumping on TV talking about thank God for our reparations? Nope. Do they go up to the average black person and say, man, you should get reparations because we get reparations too? No. And excuse my French, because they don't give a fuck. Because they don't want us to be equal to them. They want us to be a permanent underclass. So we have to understand that. We have to know that. And we have to be willing to be the people that build a nationhood, like my brother David from No Compromise said. So when you get around all these other racial groups, like my brother Nate Palm, you handled it well. Like my sister Sharon, she handled it well. I do the same thing. That's why my homeboy that's Guatemalan, when it starts talking about the racial shit, the first thing he do is he just look at me because he know this brother is well read. You know what I mean? So he understands, like, I'm not just running my mouth and talking out of the side of my ass. Black folk are a permanent underclass. The dominant society has made it that way. And that's why you have a little China, a little Koreatown, a little Cuba town. You have all those things because it is by design. So I just want to get everybody's last words. We're going to get ready to end this space. So we're going to get everybody's last words and then we're going to end it. So, Sister Sharon, you can go first. Napalm, Roy, and then David from No Compromise. You can close it out.
No, go ahead, someone. I'm just listening. Y'all have a good night, and thank you for letting me speak in the space. And good night, everyone.
No problem, no problem. Go ahead, Napalm. Go ahead.
Yeah, same thing. Thanks for letting me speak. This is a new thing for me, so it's all good. Thank everybody, man. It's all good.
Brother Roy, man, go ahead.
Oh man, I'm with everybody else, man. I've been loving what I've been hearing and what we've been talking about. I was making a big old thing of popcorn, but now I just gotta eat it. Not hear nothing. Much love and respect.
My brother David, go ahead, brother. Close us out.
Yeah, no doubt, man. What I would say is that as a black people, man, we have to come together under a certain type of unity. You know what I'm saying? And we have to understand and visualize and know that other racial groups is not going to be on par with what we want to do. You know what I'm saying? They want to obtain power by leeching off of us. We want to obtain power by gaining independence. You know what I'm saying? Like we want true independence. And because we've had some cases and we have some historical facts that shows that we have accomplished independence, probably even for a short period of time, or we've been close to accomplishing independence. Basically, they do not want us to grab hold of the ideology of building a foundation of power that we can transfer and transmit to our children. They want to be ahead. It's a competition. What we see happening now, Claude Anderson, I'm sorry, Claude Anderson prophesied this, I think probably like in the 90s. He said that, that racism is a race. It's a race. And when you look up that term racism, racism is a competition. Ism is a system. So it's a competitional system in which they're trying to get ahead of us. So they're never going to be proud of us black people being proud of our own heritage and lineages. They're not going to be proud about that. And they're always going to have something to say about that. They're always going to throw in the what about us type of lingo, you know what I'm saying? And anything that we do, everything that we do, they want to throw that in, right? And they want to push forth the person that is mixed. They want to push forth that other half of him that is going to push that forth. They did that with the guy from Golden State Warriors. You know what I'm saying? He's half black, half Mexican. They acknowledged his Mexican side. When they won the championship, he had a Mexican flag. This man did not acknowledge himself being black, and neither did TV, neither did the media do. You know what I'm saying? So for us to acknowledge our blackness, they're not going to like that. And if they come forth with it, they want us to compromise. So I think all in all, we got to take back our hip hop industry. They turned hip hop into a game. They turned hip hop and rap into a game. And then now that is turned into a game. They have their players who are saying, yo, you know what? This game belongs to us because we've been winning for a long time in it. We've engaged in it, right? We've helped that out. I think one of the things with Fat Joe, that has helped him in his ideology. I don't agree with it, but one of the things that has probably played forth in his ideology of, black people didn't do everything, was Latinos who helped out with hip hop and everything. You have something called the Rucker Park in New York City, and Fat Joe he had his own team in the Rucker Park and the Rucker basketball tournaments, and his team was called Terror Squad. And what Fat Joe did was that he always paid players from the NBA to come and play for him on his team, and people would come and they would feel like, yo, Fat Joe represents all of us, right? Here's a Latino and he's involved with basketball, but guess who he was paying to come play for his teams? They were black players. And let's keep in mind, you got Spanish players and Puerto Ricans and Latinos, you got all of them all around that play basketball, but he kept paying the Allen Iversons and he was paying the Stephon Marbury's, the black players. All in essence, the slave owner going purchasing the slaves and saying, dance for me, entertain me, and because of that, Fat Joe gained the backing of not only Latino people but black people as well. We put them in the same teacup with us. You know what I'm saying? You have people like Chris Tucker who walked around saying that Bill Clinton was the first black president. Again, black people creating lanes that was never meant. We got to stick to black and be black. We got to be black, black first. You know what I'm saying? Be one, black first above all. That's the way that we have to go about it. If we're going to gain true liberation, it got to be B1 in our education and economics. So without that, like Fred Hampton said, without education, then there's no motivation. So it's got to be education. So we got to educate ourselves on what we built so that we don't get stuck standing there while our brother and sister is in need of help or some sort of information, and we get stuck standing there talking about, well, a mind talking, telepathy, talking about this is just, that's just them, that's not me. We got to start getting engaged and saying, yo, you know what? I can answer that for you. You understand? I can come at that subject and I can answer that. I can give some insight, and we stay away from the debates, but unless if it's an official debate, where there's judges and everything, that's okay. But we can stay away from the debates and engage more in conversations, and we can go further with that. You know what I'm saying? And understanding that you don't have to know every single thing, man. I understand that now. I don't have to know every single thing, but if you know a little of a lot, you can affect the youth, and that's what it's all about. They want their youth to advance. So they want to, in order to pick themselves up, they have to put us down. In order for us to be oppressed, we can't be proud of who we are. They want to be proud of who they are. So you're going to have these other groups, they're not going to be proud. They're not going to support anything that we do. But once we support ourselves and once we begin to demonstrate true power and not beg for power, not ask for power, but we take it, and we demonstrate our power, they'll respect it, they'll understand it, and they want to be part of it under our terms. And I leave you with that. I appreciate you, Warren G, for having me on one more time, and I appreciate everybody who was on. Appreciate definitely Sister Sharon or whatever, man. And I as Sister Sharon would say, I land my plane there. You know what I'm saying? So one love, y'all. I appreciate you.
Man, I appreciate everyone. He couldn't have said it no better. I love that example. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. When I watched the Golden State Warriors and I seen that hyphenated last name, I'm not gonna lie to you. I said, man, what the fuck is this shit? I said, and the first thing I said was, that's a nigga. And I don't understand this. where we run away from our racial pride, man, and we running other people. And I don't care how much Latino you are. Yeah, you heard it from Warren. I don't care how much you claim Latino. That Latino didn't get you in the NBA. Because if that's the case, the NBA would be 90% Latino, not 99% black folk. So I didn't appreciate that. And that's one more thing that the media likes to do. I want y'all to pay attention. Look at Black Panther. Me and David, we did a podcast about that. Look at how they're trying to Latinoize Black Panther. They're trying to take that movement and turn it into some Latino shit. And you say, Warren, that's not, no, it's not right. Not to me. We've been in this country over 500 years and built it. And now I get a chance to see black folk as superheroes. And now we only get one movie as a superhero. And now we got to pass the baton to somebody else. No, the media does it first. TV does it. Hollywood will do it first. They're going to put it in front of y'all to let y'all see this is the way we're going. But this is one thing I want y'all to remember. When it does not sell, when it does not do well, they're going to result back to black. One example, Marvel was going bankrupt. Y'all go do your research. Marvel was going bankrupt. You know who saved Marvel Studios? Wesley Snipes, Blade. Do y'all know how much money Blade made for Marvel? Go look up. Go look it up. And guess what Wesley Snipes was telling Marvel in 97? You need to do a Black Panther. He said this in 97, y'all. We are geniuses. So when they do try to take the narrative away from us and put it onto any other racial group, it's going to fail. Remember, y'all heard it from me. It's going to fail. You know why? Because look at everything that's happening. Black Panther is going towards a Latino kind of thing. And if you look at DC, guess what they're making? A movie called Black Adam about a black god. And The Rock is playing him. These white folk know what wins and what makes money. That's why they're propping up every other racial group, because they're trying to see what sticks. But then when they realize, damn, that's not going to work. You remember, Black Panther made more money than all them damn movies that Marvel came out with. They ain't made that much money since Wesley Snipes' Blade. So go look that up, because a lot of white folk don't know that history. They forgot about Blade. So I want y'all to understand that we are the gods, not everybody else. Everybody think they're not the gods. They're not the brother Lattimore that created the light bulb, and what's the brother R.J. Patterson who created the first automobile, the T automobile, not Henry Ford. You got to know our history. Henry Ford is responsible for the mass production of the automobile. He didn't create the first automobile. So we have to understand that stuff. If we don't understand our history, then we don't know where we're going. I appreciate everybody. Love, live life. And then if we're going to do the same thing next time, either Wednesday or Thursday, I'll holler at y'all, and y'all have a good evening.